This is a video where Jimmy Dore shows just how fucking stupid he is. And it's about the ceding power, the power sharing agreement that was announced. But people like Jimmy and other idiots that don't try to understand how our government works or how things work, think something gravely wrong is going on here. So let's find out what.
Here's what, those people who said you got to vote for Joe Biden and push him left, they're all propagandists or they're dupes because they're never going to push Joe Biden left unless we push them to push Joe Biden left. And nobody on the left is into pushing politicians. They're just not. The two top Senate leaders are nearing a power sharing agreement. So the Democrats just took over the goddamn Senate. Now they have control of every branch of government. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House. Isn't that amazing? They control all of it. What is Chuck Schumer going to do? He's going to take this power that he's got now and ram through progressive Democratic ideas and causes that they've been fucking waiting to implement for years. What is he going to do? No, he's going to share power.
All right. Jimmy has no right to call anybody a dupes except his audience, because his audience who buy this bullshit are absolute dupes, right? And it's a really bad look for progressives on the left, and we got to get cancers like him out of there because he hurts the movement. But no, this is just something. Nothing has changed, right? So what happens here is all the committees will be split 50-50 Democrat Republican because it's a 50-50 split. But because the Democrats have the majority, they'll have all the chairs, which means the chairs schedule everything, right, to what comes through. In the case of a deadlocked committee, that's 50-50, the chairman can bring it to the floor anyways, right? So it's not going to hinder anything at all. And I think part of the thing that they're still working out is whether or not, if it's 50-50, if either party can send it to the floor, right? So if there's something that Republicans want to get through that manage to get into the committees, and it's split 50-50, that can go to the floor for a vote and things like that. But this does nothing in any meaningful way affect what Democrats can do, right? The only way to change going into this kind of agreement is whether or not, you get rid of the filibuster, which the Democrats don't have the votes to get rid of the filibuster, right? Even at a simple majority, because Vencher has said he's not going to do it. But this doesn't hurt anything.
The first thing he wants to do is figure out how they could share power. That's the first thing. And Joe Biden has already indicated that he's not going to let Bernie use reconciliation to get anything done with the budget committee. And Bernie won't do anything that Joe Biden doesn't approve. So we're fucked.
So I haven't found anything in that regard on the Joe Biden clip. And the other thing is that Sanders is like, we're going to focus on working within the parameters that Joe Biden wants to accomplish, right? It doesn't mean that he's going to go along and do whatever Joe Biden wants. It's that he's going to work within those parameters, right? He's all pissed. He's like, oh, you wanted Medicare for all, and now you're not going to push for it and all that other stuff. It's like, again, we're going to work with what we have here and what the party has agreed to try to get done. I'm going to push for more things in there than what the party originally wanted, and we're going to try to get that in my position. But generally, we're going to work around this framework that we've agreed to before the election. Not a big deal.
And here they are announcing they're going to share power. Look at that. They're going to share power. I can't wait to see their friendship bracelets. I bet. What do you think they're laughing about right there? I bet they're laughing about poor people and the lack of support that they've given them over the last year. I bet that's what they're laughing at. Ha ha, we got away with $600 after one of the just one FU payment. Ha ha ha. Hey, let's go on vacation.
All right. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's definitely going to make a cool $1 million over that. He's got to get, he's got to pay for that $2 million house he has. And you know what? I'm not upset with people making the money and being able to spend and buy that stuff. What I hate is grifters shitheads like Jimmy that are doing it, right? But what was I going to say there? But so he's talking about like, oh, we did nothing for poor people over the last year. Now, the CARES Act was really good for us. Could it have been better? Sure. Yeah, a lot of things could be better, but in the CARES Act, we guaranteed like a $15 minimum wage floor on unemployment, plus whatever you would normally get, right? So in that time, when the Super Dole was a thing, the 4 months that we had it, we actually reduced poverty, right, in this nation, despite record unemployment, record contraction in the economic productivity. So for those 4 months on that Super Dole, when we were giving out, if we just want to go 4 weeks equals a month, giving out $2,400 a month, right? They'll always say, oh, they only give out $1,200 checks. They only give out $1,200 checks, and that was meant to last all year. No, during that $4 months there, we were one of the best ones. Like, we were one of the handful of nations to see real wages increase. Why? Because that extra $600 a week meant that, 69%, I think it was, 70% of people that were unemployment were making more money than what they got working. And so we reduced poverty doing that stuff there. Now, because the Republicans did not want to extend it or whatever here and all that stuff lapsed, that hurt us. But even with that lapse, we were still one of the top countries per capita in terms of direct payments to people and stuff, and taking care of them and stuff. Like, you'll see that graphic go around that's just wrong. It's just lies on how they frame what other countries did versus what the U.S. did. We're looking at the Super Dole. So we did a lot. Now, letting it lapse was a big issue. So, like, the HEROES Act, which was passed in May, Republicans should have passed, right? That $3.5 trillion that would have extended everything that the CARES Act did and would have expanded upon issues and holes and things that were missing in the other thing. Yeah. I got blocked by Peter Coffin the other day. Yeah. He had some smarmy remark about the Chud Logic situation where he says, well, the only people that were after him were liberals and all this stuff. And basically every ties back to challenging liberal narratives, and that's why they're against him. And I said, shut the fuck up with your nonsense, Peter. And he said something like, are you excited for like sex robots? And I'm like, I don't care about sex robots. What's your point? And he blocked me instead of having a conversation, right? Because apparently, well, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to know because I'm a nobody to him. That I'm a longtime supporter of Chud Logic. We talk, not like frequently as friends and stuff there. And I had issues with the situation that Chud Logic was in, but it wasn't anything that meant that I'm going to pull my support for him, right? But that doesn't mean that Peter's stupid take was anywhere close to accurate.
So the top two Senate leaders are nearing a power-sharing agreement to hash out how the divided chamber will operate, with Democrats in charge of setting the schedule, but both parties likely to...
Well, Peter's thing nowadays is to be contrarian. Like, that's him, or that's them trying to stay relevant, right? That's not from any actual principles or beliefs or ideas. They're just stirring up controversy to stay relevant, get views, get clicks. But it's not working. Like, you leave a snark comment to me in response to me, and you have two people respond to it, interact with it, when you have, God, they must have like 10 times or more the followers on Twitter and got no interaction trying to dunk on me.
To hold an equal number of seats on Senate committees. The negotiations between Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and Republican leader Mitch McConnell have been built largely around how the Senate operated the last time the body was split 50-50 when George W. Bush initially became president in 2001.
So he's got
Democrats will.
He's got nothing to say about that. He just scrolls right past that, the thing that debunks his whole argument. He reads it and ignores it.
Hold the chairmanships of the committees, giving them power to set the agenda, and Schumer will be granted the title of majority leader since Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will cast tie-breaking votes on the floor. So the vice president, as a 50-50 chamber, she gets to vote in the Senate, and she's going to vote with the Democrats, so the Democrats have the majority. Okay, you get that, right? Even when the Democrats win, they demand they lose, says Alan McLeod. What was the point of demoting McConnell as majority leader if Schumer is going to power share with him? McConnell never would have done this for Schumer and Biden.
No kidding.
These are lies. Like, he read what's going on. He read it, and now he's just going to the idiots in the comment section that just got the headline on the tweet that don't know what the fuck's going on and are so wrong. And he's just like, yeah, all that stuff I said that I proved myself wrong with that one little paragraph I read about what's actually going on. No. I'm still right. And the people here saying, oh, the Dems are awful or fucking morons.
The last time both parties decided to power share, they joined forces to invade Iraq on WMD lies and passed the Patriot Act, which got abused or surveil a lot of poor people of color. So we got a lot to look forward to. Isn't that amazing?
Again, this doesn't follow, like, at all. Like, what he's trying to imply here doesn't follow for this, how the rules are set up. All this does is how bills and stuff go into committee, right? And how they get out of committee when we're split, right? And who knows? Maybe the Republicans in this scenario are extremely obstructive, right? Obstructive. I don't know if I use that correctly, or even that's a word. But if they obstruct really, really bad in this situation, Biden just says if that's the case, he's willing to pull the filibuster on legislation. Now, is that a year or two from now? Like, do we wait until after the 2020? Largely, I think it would be after the 2022 midterms. Hopefully, expanding the lead so that Manchin's not the one holding it up for the rules. But yeah, the logic doesn't follow that. Oh, because they agreed to some bad bill in a power sharing act, that this is what logically follows from a power sharing act, right? These are disconnected.
This will probably end with McConnell getting most of what he wants and Schumer occasionally writing strongly worded letters. You know that's what's coming. It's almost like this system's designed to make sure really powerful people never have to concede much of anything.
Jimmy, your job is to understand how the government works to be a pundit. And you fail. Basic civics. All the goddamn time.
Politicians are a lot like extras in movies. They're around to make the play seem real. Democrats are hell-bent on meeting the party of white supremacy halfway. LOL, so there was no point electing Democrats.
Again, another moron that just read the headline. And Jimmy's going to push it. He debunked himself. Jimmy's just going to keep pushing this shit.
No. Hey, wake me up when the country realizes neither party is actually for the American people. If anything has been evident, mainstream media, government does everything in their power to pit this side versus that side. As long as we fight amongst ourselves, they live off the fruits of our labor. Black people were rioting all last summer. White people started rioting in the winter. I've had Richard Wolff on this show and Chris Hedges to talk about the causes of that. And they seem to be multifaceted and not really reported, not really talked about. They seem to be multifaceted, deep-rooted, and all attached somehow to our failed government, neoliberalism, and an oppressive oligarchy.
Again, Jimmy, you don't know what neoliberalism is. Oh, he's how's it going, right? He's jumping on the power sharing agreement, which is just, yeah, neoliberalism is just a buzzword. They don't understand what the fuck it means, and it bugs the ever-loving shit out of me. The Democrats are not neoliberals. There might be some, in the third way sense, in some of the third way more centrist types, there's more neoliberal ideas in there, but the party, like the platform, was very progressive on what they're pushing for. Biden basically said, one of the big things about neoliberalism is a lot of the austerity measures, right? And Biden just basically said, fuck the deficit with his COVID relief plan, right? So that's not a neoliberal take. Yeah. But it's basically, the power sharing thing is just basically like, well, all right, this is how the Senate's split up. This is how bills go in and out of committee. Democrats still control everything and how that happens. If they're deadlocked in committee, the Democrat chair can push it out. They still haven't, as far as I know, they still haven't decided on whether or not the Republicans can push the bill out if it's deadlocked. So both sides can do it. But that's it. That's all this does. It doesn't hurt any of the Democrats' power at all. And the only way to change this differently is to either vote the filibuster out, which would require 60 votes they don't have, or they decide to set a new precedent with just a simple majority to get rid of the filibuster on legislation, which they don't have the votes for that either because Manchin has said he's not going to do it. Now, he may change his mind on that in a year or two if the Republicans are going to be a huge roadblock, right? Because that's what Biden has said. So maybe by 2022, if we can pick up, say 51, pick up another seat or two in the Senate, get to 51, 52, we can get rid of the filibuster after that. So it doesn't do anything to us. It's not the end of the world, but he's going to keep pushing that. Oh, like every person in the comment is just somebody repeating shit they don't understand. Yeah. Well, so I have been in the past. I'm moving away from my third party roots. I've been a big supporter of third parties for most of my voting life, right? There, on the national stage, there's no third party worth voting for, right? For president and stuff like that, because the Green Party has done jack shit to build up their base, to actually win seats in lower elections. They largely give two shits about the lower elections. They'll run every 4 years as president. That's about it. Maybe every now and then you'll get some state or local thing, but they've had zero interest in building the infrastructure necessary for a third party to do well. The Libertarian Party has done better with this because you have plenty of state and local elections that go Libertarian, but they're still far away from doing anything. And not that I would anymore at least vote for Libertarian in my younger days when I was more conservative than I am now. I voted Libertarian, but largely there's just nothing there for us in a third party. Yeah, and he's doing, like, the progressive movement is doing well. Not as well as we would like, but in terms, like, one of the big things I like to follow and like to track, or what I've picked up here over the last years, I've really, really hammered in and dug into this stuff, and it's largely what's pulled me away from my third partyism. That and just how awful Trump has been as a president over the last 4 years. But to look at is the growth of the Progressive Party, especially since Obama, and the decline in the more conservative centrist Blue Dog Party, right? So when Obama went in 2009, because There really is no caucus. Like we don't caucus in the Senate outside of just like Democrats. Um, just because you have 50 people, there's no need for these individual caucuses and stuff like that. So it's hard to track the Senate. But in the House of Representatives, after Obama was elected, there was 59 blue dogs in there. In 2010, that dropped to 26, I think it was. And then there was like 70 some odd members of the Progressive Caucus, right? And so that 26, blue dogs have only ever hit that 26 once more in 2018. The progressives now are up to, well, they were 98 in the last one, and I see some of the numbers shift and change. So I don't know if some people have decided not to join the party that they thought were going to join the caucus. But it's 94 now. Depending on what you look. Last time I looked, it was like 98 again too, so it wasn't much change. But it depends on which Democrats are going to join the Congressional Progressive Caucus. The New Democrats, which is largely the big one, the Nancy Pelosi one, has like 2 or 3 more representatives than the Progressive Caucus. So you wonder why the Democratic platform this year was so progressive compared to what it was when Hillary ran. That's because the Progressive Caucus over the last 30 years has grown from 19 members in 91 when Bernie co-founded it to just about 100. Right? We're still not a majority of the Democrats in there, but to control about a quarter of the seats, you're doing really well for the movement. And just you keep pushing it there, and if we eventually overtake, say, the New Democratic caucus, hey, things are going to get even more progressive. Yeah, it's all on the ground. Justice Democrats did some good work, right? And it's not because of Jimmy, right? And Jimmy doesn't care about anything that's here. And it bugs me too for someone like Kyle. Kyle still, and a lot of progressives still kind of push like we're in like the 80s and 90s when there was a lot of blue dog Democrats because of the rise of neoliberalism on the right. Compared to like the failings in the 70s and stuff with Keynesianism, right, and the decline of that. You saw more of those blue dogs than you saw the third way that tried to blend elements of neoliberalism with the previous Keynesian stuff and their social programs, right, to win elections and do that stuff. People still think we're in the 80s and 90s, and we're in Reagan here, and we're just getting into Clinton. That's not the case anymore, right? The Progressive has a pretty large voice, and we've been working pretty damn hard since even before Obama, right? But these fuckers don't care. They have no care to control power. He just wants to make money. This is his career, to make money, and being hyper-partisan on YouTube, on Twitch, right? Someone like myself who's going to try to consistently stay to my principles and be measured, is going to have a hard time growing significantly compared to somebody who does what Jimmy does what like Richard Medhurst does a lot of what Kyle does now. Yeah, we can improve and stuff. Yeah, and some of the neoliberal stuff's still not going to go away, but like the austerity stuff, which was still like even under Obama, the consensus around like more austere measures to handle economic crises was in power, where Biden said fuck it. Literally said fuck it, the deficit's not an obstacle to us. Now his package could be larger than the 1.9 trillion, but still that's a pretty significant package.
So I wonder who benefits off a left-right divide in America. Do the Democrats benefit off it? Yes. Do the Republicans? Yes. Do they both work for the same guy? Yes. Is this professional wrestling? Yes. What is professional wrestling? Professional wrestling is when they're both being paid by the same person. So Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi, all paid by the same person, Chuck Schumer, meaning Wall Street, military industrial complex, big pharma, and health insurance companies. They're all paid by the same people. They're all controlled by the same people, and the outcome is already known. The outcome is we're going to have a ramped up military budget. We're going to keep privatized insurance to keep people broke, sick, and poor. And we're going to keep instituting austerity and neoliberalism while we give $5 trillion to the richest people in the country.
That's not austerity, you fucking moron. Right? Oh. Yeah, most of that stuff goes to, like, the stuff that goes to the businesses and stuff, like the PPP loans, are to keep people working, which Jimmy did a video to shit on Bernie Sanders a while ago. I think it's up on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. Where he was mad that the CARES Act was, oh, we're going to go unemployment insurance and we're not going to pay people to cover their salaries. But at the same time, he's going to bitch about the PPP, which was a program specifically designed to cover payroll costs during the mass unemployment stuff to keep people working, right? Is what he wanted in some form. He just like it. And on the healthcare and the private health care stuff, Jimmy doesn't fucking care about that, right? He was kissing Tulsi's ass when she abandoned Medicare for all, right? To do more of a public option stuff, right? So he'll abandon that. He doesn't care. And largely, yeah, Dore's a vulture, yeah. But it is, like, he really doesn't care, and his arguments could go here. But, like, even this whole pro wrestling take and stuff is a really naive and childish view of how the government and politics works. Yes, is money in politics an issue? Yes, that's something that's got to be fixed. But to pretend that there's some strict consensus on this and stuff, and to even say, like, austerity, when, you know, Biden, $2 trillion they're putting out here, you know, I wish it was higher and closer to the CARES Act, but part of it is more long-term stuff that'll last beyond just, like, this pandemic, like the $15 minimum wage, the making like tipped wages the same as the regular minimum wage, getting rid of the disability loophole in minimum wages and stuff like that. So a lot of long-term things that are going to help people, help workers and stuff, are in there. So it's 1.9 trillion instead of that now, then something more. And I think one of the things you could argue is to up the $1,400 to finish off that $2,000 to actually make them actual $2,000 checks. I mean, that's probably about the only thing you'd push for, and I think would be reasonable that you could probably get through. But yeah, there's differences. There's a lot more complexity to how our government runs. Like, our government is set up not to move as fast as we would like, right? That's just the nature of the beast. That's how our founders created the government, right? Because they were afraid of, you know, there's I should do a breakdown of this and bring out, like, Plato's Republic and stuff like that, and break that down in something else on stream. But and how these concerns and these ideas in there that they were concerned about in other historical democracies, they're basically concerned with demagogues, right? And so how do we put things in place so that you just can't have, like, a demagogue going through here and just wreck everything in there, and you get a totalitarian dictator, right? Something like that. Or in their case, they were concerned about the reinstitution of the monarchy, right? And so things were meant to move slower, meant to be harder to do things, do all this other stuff. And just because that remains to be the case, and for the case like the Democrats with how the demographics have shifted, or yeah, how the parties and stuff shift, where how this system is set up, the Senate is overwhelmingly biased towards Republicans. It's very, very, very difficult for Dems right now to get to the supermajority to avoid the filibuster. And so there's all these things that are issues for us here, and they're obstacles meant to slow things down. It sucks. But I mean, that's the way it is, and you have to work certain ways to get things done. But, you know,
they already know that's the outcome, and now they have to go do the theater. They have to go out and put on the show, And that's what Nancy Pelosi does when she claps like this and rips up his speech. That's all a show. She ripped up his speech as she plasts his entire legislative agenda, meaning Trump's agenda, including money for their border wall. So,
that money for the border wall was a negotiation. They got more funding for a bunch of programs. What were some of them off the top of my head? I think it was increased food stamps, or some food subsidy along there. There's a whole bunch of other benefits that they got for giving up that $15 billion for the wall, right? $15 billion with our GDP is nothing, and if you can expand programs under a administration where you only control one house of Congress and you don't control the presidency, to make that's a pretty reasonable trade-off, right? I would say, right? It's a $15 billion a waste to go to the wall. Doesn't do anything, not really effective, none of that stuff. But you're not giving like $15 billion to cage more people or whatever, right? It's not something that would be morally reprehensible beyond, something like, oh, well, you can't hear. It's like $15 billion. It's wasted money. You don't want to waste it. But hey, these these programs for the poor, we get more money for it, even out of the Republicans. So that's what they got for it. But Jimmy's not going to be honest about that and explain that, hey, this was a pretty good win for the Dems.
I understand the idea of I understand the desire and the want to take over the Democratic Party and turn it into a party that actually opposes oligarchy and establishment. That is never happening. Ever. That's never, ever happening. Ever. Not happening.
So as I pointed out earlier, it is happening, right? Like we're within, like in the House is the best way to look at it. Because you have all these sorts of little special interests, caucuses and stuff that you can do. So you can compare the three main caucuses. You have the Blue Dogs, which are pretty non-existent now compared to where they were even in 2008. Then you have the New Democrats, which are the plurality party, the majority caucus within the House. And then you have the Progressive Caucus. Over 30 years, we've gone from 19 to nearly 100. Right? We're taking over the party. That's why the party keeps moving our way.
Never. Not happening. Not going to happen. Justice Democrats are a huge fail. Unless they again, they're tweeting really well. They're super tweeting hard.
Oh, yes.
But they're not going to cross the party in a significant way. They've already proven that they're not going to do it. And if they start crossing the party in a significant way that means something, that will be the first. And I'll be like, wow, look at that total 180 by the Justice Democrats. I wonder why.
So I'll leave it here. He's not saying specifically, but there's this idea among like Dore and Klinsky and stuff that they want the progressives to be the Tea Party of the left. But what they don't recognize is that the Tea Party accomplished nothing and died literally the next election cycle. So they were at their peak in terms of legislators in 2010, and then 2012, significant losses, and they really haven't recovered since, right? And there's other things that go with it that I think are important to talk about as well, and why grifters are like Dore are a big fucking issue. The Tea Party had an issue where different lawyers would create all these small PACs and do all this other stuff and just advertise the fuck out to the Tea Party. But most of that money never went to any candidates to challenge anything, to change anything, right? And all that money went there, and that helped kill the party, or kill the Tea Party, right? And we have some of that in the progressive movement, right? So Crystal Ball, she had a PAC that in the 2018 midterms, from the reporting I found, she gave out $22,000. She raised $500,000. She gave out $22,000 to campaigns. She took over. She took nearly 200,000 of that for her own salary. She grifted progressives in that things, right? And so that's an issue with grifters like Dore and like Crystal Ball that we have to be cognizant of and go after, right? Otherwise, they're going to hurt our movement. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Basically, just paying herself there, and so you get, you know, you say this about like Proud Socialist on there, or Brianna Joy Gray. I'd even say it about like the Chapo guys. Now they're not necessarily raising money for candidates like Crystal Ball is, but all that money that's going to them to basically say, "Hey, Dems bad, fuck the Dems," could be better used to actually getting progressives elected.
So now they have complete control of government, and let's watch the Justice Democrats and the rest of the Democrats make excuses for why we can't have nice things. And the reason why we can't have nice things is because we have one party rule in America. What's that? What was that joke? Who was the person? It was America has a one-party system, but in traditional American extravagance, they have two parties or something like that. I'm butchering that to death. You know that quote, right? It's a famous quote. I'm butchering it. But anyway, so and boy, oh boy, I wanted the Justice Democrats to succeed. I had them on my show whenever they wanted. I was the first one to have Cori Bush on a show. I was the first one to have AOC on a show. I really, really wanted them to succeed. And it's just clear that it's not possible. It's just not possible. And shame on people who make excuses for them. Shame on you. Shame on you, for real.
I mean, I'm sorry you have like the political understanding of a child, right? Politics is a tough game, right? And you're gonna have to do things to get things done that are. Yeah, I know he's promoting Tulsi Gabbard. None of his beliefs hold, right? But I don't know. I think we'll just watch and listen to this last bit out. I don't know if I have much left to say, and I'm sure you can hear it in my voice is going out on me here. So we'll finish this up and we'll call it a night for tonight.
I mean, how crazy a Justice Democrat will come out for censorship. That's pretty crazy, everybody,
That's
because
nuts.
if you don't connect the learning dots here, how do they get access to media as a
Right.
justice? They have
Right.
no access.
Right. And they want to now censor the media that made them popular. Of course, because they're not really left.
What Justice Dems are asking for you to be censored, Jimmy? Right? This is you latching on to a bunch of bullshit. To the parlor situation and oh god, this is so stupid.
They're careerists. They're in it for themselves. They don't take corporate money. How could they be a sellout? Because they vote like people who take corporate money. They don't challenge the people who take the corporate money. And why? For their own career inside the party. And quit pretending like you don't know that.
I mean, they got so. Yeah, the dumb left. But so in, they got what was the big thing they got? They got the PAYGO restrictions in exchange for voting for Pelosi, right? So we got something here that a rule taken out that we don't have to have all the funding for certain spending to pass, right? That's largely what the PAYGO is. And Jimmy would rather have wasted that on a virtue signal in for Medicare for all, right? That would have meant jack shit, right? Whereas at least PAYGO, when you're working on passing spending and different other things, and that rule taken care of, we can be more generous in the spending that we push for, right? Without having to worry about balancing it right away. I think that's a bigger win for us than, forcing a vote on Medicare for all.
Oh, they're getting something.
Quit pretending like you don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, it's definitely that.
So hashtag forced to vote was the great reveal. It was the mask off moment. Here it is. Here's that quote. It was said by Julius Nyerere. He's the first president of Tanzania. He said the United States is also a one-party state, but with typical American extravagance, they have two of them.
All right, it doesn't mean anything, but you want to go mask off, and takes like that. He's talking about the wrong people. He's talking about himself, right? I realize that, but that finishes that one.